Shir sponsor Loinish Mazam Yaakov Shalom Lev Asitzchok. We're holding in Bava Kama Daf Tes. This is a repeat of the Shabbos Shir for the recording. So Daf Chesamud Beis, we're starting the Gemara in the bottom. The Gemara says, I add another additional point. Reuben Shemocha Soda L'Shimon Shaloi B'Achayis. Reuben sold a soda to Shimon, but he didn't take any responsibility for it. So the Gemara Daf Tes Amud Aleph on top. V'yatzu Aleya Asikin. Then there was a sikin that came out. What's a sikin? Says Rashi Oyri, meaning somebody came and said, "This is not your field. It's my field." So it says, we're not talking about a nosim, not talking about that somebody came to capture the field, because it doesn't. It's your fault. Mazol chagor. That's nothing to do with me, says the seller. But here, the seller sold a bad field. Actually, before the buyer did a type of chazaka, as we'll see in a moment, he could change his mind. He said, "I don't want this field." But once he had chazaka, in yochel he can't hold it anymore. My time. What's the difference? What's the reason? Sorry. So you took, Rashi says, you took a sack full of wind. I mean, you should have checked before. You should have run title before. You didn't run title before. It's your fault. When does that chazaka happen? Once he walks around the field to see what the field needs. And the Gemara adds then, and that sentence, it was no achrayus, means the owner, the seller, has no responsibility to take care of it. So then you're right. But if you have achrayus, so then the seller is responsible for it. So therefore he can tell, listen, I don't want to go down to base and start running after you. Take back the field, give me back my money. Even if there was a achrayus, he doesn't have to pay him right away. He says, once you go to Beis and they will say that you're right, and you're going to have to come and get back your field. You go to Beis with the borrower, the lender. The lender will take away your field. Come back to me, I'll pay you back. Until that happens, I'm not giving it back to you. So that's the Gemara. It says Machlikus over here in the Gemara. Now, what does Chidai Shemitzu mean? He walked around the field. Why walking around the field is a chazaka? So Rashi learns, it's Rashi Bo Mitzia. Rashi Mitzia learns, it's one of the ways of chazaka. Chazaka means you coin the field. We're talking about he did not pay for the field. And he just, that's his coin of the field. So if he did chazaka, his coin. If not, it says Taisus. If you talk about chazaka, first of all, there's other ways to be coin in the field. The classic ways that we know is Noal Godar Paretz. Noal means locked it up. Godar means he fenced it. Paretz means he opened it up. That's the ways that we know that you have to do that's chazaka. When do you get the Daisha Mitzri? Walking around the field. That's not one of the normal chazakas. That's question number one. Question number two is that what's the chiddush over here? If he didn't do a regular chazaka, of course he could change his mind. So therefore, Toysa says, we're talking about he did a chazaka. He was coined it. But there's still some kind of an agreement between the seller and buyer that as long as he didn't go around to check the field, he can still change his mind. And that's what happened over here. He can still change his mind. The Toysa learns he didn't give him money yet. So he did a chazaka, he didn't give him money, he can still go and check it. Other Rishonim learn that the Rambam learns that way, that even if he gave the money, he can still change his mind. Because it's like an unwritten agreement that until I don't do that first inspection after the purchase, I can still change my mind. That's how these Rishonim learn. Okay, so says the Gemara. Rav Huna Amar, or Kesef or Metav. What is Rav Huna talking about? So says Rashi, we're going back to the question we had earlier, 2 blocks ago. We're asked, you have a contradiction. On one hand, it says Metav still Metav Karmo, the best field. On the other hand, you have another pasuk that says that Yoshim Rabbi Shri Kesef. So, what do we do? Rav Huna says there's only 2 things you can pay. Either Beitav or money. Cash. That's the only 2 things. And that's what he's coming to. Now, we'll get back to the moment to the question. Why is Rav Huna coming here? Why don't we say it back there in the sugya? So we'll get back to the moment. Same way, we learned you can pay even Shvekasif. That's if he has nothing. He doesn't have money and he doesn't have a karka. So then he pays with subin, who can pay with any movables. If the lay step shito, he doesn't have, so it's a chiddush. Maybe you tell them, your ox scored a field, go and sell whatever you have, and give him money. Kamashma, that's a chiddush. Now, so first of all, Tosis here, there's an important Tosis. Tosis says there's 3 different levels. What's the 3 different levels? There is a level of a mazik that we said you pay or kesef, or meitaf, or karka. And if you don't have, you pay him with any movables you have. The second level is a balchoy. Balchoy, you can't pay him with the land if you have money. You have to pay money. If you don't have money, then the balchoy takes land. The money comes first. Then comes the third stage, and that is a poyel. Poyel means a worker. Someone who worked for you during the day. You have a din, then you have to pay him that day. And you have to pay him money. And if you don't have money, you have to sell your property. You sell what you have to pay the money. That's the only case you have to sell your assets, they pay money. The Rajba explains why. Because the Torah is very careful. You have to pay that same day. Why? Because the poyel takes the money, but then he buys dinner for his kids. So you need to give him money. You can't give him something else. So that's the chiddush over here. The Bainizik, you don't tell him you have to sell it. You give him according to Ravuna either kesef or meita, and then if you don't have that, then you can give him rules. Torah brings over here a machlekes between him and the Rif. What the halacha is? The halacha is like Ravuna that says you can't pay subin unless that's the only thing you have, or like the Shittas of Ravuna Brady Yeshua and Rav Papa, they said you could pay subin whenever you want. Machlekes. Torah heard the halacha is like Ravuna. The Rosh brings, and that's the reason we wait to say it till here. Why wait to say it till here? We should have said earlier. The answer is to tell you that's the halacha. So we wait till the end of the sugi, right before the Mishnah, to come and tell you this. Ksofim, money is like land. What do you come to tell me? To tell you that you could pay either meitav or money. That's exactly what Ravuna said. So what is Ravasi adding? You have 2 brothers that divided a field. They divided not the field. We'll get to the field in a moment. Divided the estate. One took land, one took money. And the Balchoiv came and took the land. The other one who took the land, I mean the 2 brothers, Reuben took the land, Shimon took the money. Now comes the Balchoiv, takes the land. So Reuben goes back to Shimon and says, Shimon, give me 50% of the money. So of course, I brought. They're both the kids, they're both children of the deceased who was the borrower. They're both responsible to pay for the loan. That's one way the Gemara asked the question. Some say the opposite. The opposite makes sense. You know why I took money and you took land? We each one divided the properties and we each one took a risk. What was the risk? It says, I took money. What's my risk? If it's stolen, too bad. I take money, it gets stolen. You're not going to pay me back my land. That's why you took the land. If they take it from you, you don't take it from me. I mean, that's why specifically you took land, I took money. So each one bears the responsibility of the risks that come with it. So I don't want to take you back the money. So once there's 2 ikedamis, either it's so pashut that Reuben will pay back, the Reuben and Shimon will redivide the money, or it's so pashut that no, whoever took the money stays with the money. You don't pay back the one who took the land. The case is Shliachim Shecholku. They divided one land. There's no agreement. They divided one land. And one of them, and the Balchoy takes the chelik. And then, says Ravasi, Karka or Mois. We'll see in a moment what the Karka or Mois mean. The Omar Ravasi Chazim already saw, Ravasi already spoke about that case. Where we see it. 2 brothers divided the land. And the Balchoy came and took the land of one of them, the piece of one of them. Rava says it's cancelled. Over. Why? We divided it, but now that the lender took it away, you have to redivide. Shmuel Marvita. Shmuel says he gave it up. It's up. He gave it up. Why did he give it up? Because he gave up on the right. You took your land. I took my land. Balchai took it. Too late. Ravasi says you take a quarter land and a quarter money. Why? Why a quarter land and a quarter money? What does it mean? So Rashi here, first of all, he brings two explanations. What is Revia Bakarka, Revia B'Mos? One explanation, so let's take a step back. Rav learns, so let's first of all maybe see the Gemara inside. Let's see the Gemara inside. We say Rav and Shmuel, and we'll see Ravasi. They Achim divided. They're still considered to be inheritance. They're still considered to be Yorshim. They inherited the land. So we're still, even though we divided the land, we're still brothers. We're still devout. We still owe the money of our father. So the Balchai took of one, we'll redivide it. They are buyers. Meaning, once the father died, you have here a land. As the Yeshiva said, in Breira, there's no way to evaluate. So what do? It's as if I sold you a land. Each one of us owns every piece of land. So I sell you 50%, you take 50, I take 50. It's a sale. And it's someone who's taking Shaloi B'Achayos. I'm selling you a land, and I'm not responsible for it. So that's why Shmuel says you don't pay. According to Ravasi, you take a quarter karka, quarter mois, he has a suffix. What does it mean? So Rashi brings two explanations. One explanation Rashi says that he takes either or. Meaning, according to Rav, you have to pay back. You have to redivide it. According to Shmuel, you don't have to pay back. Because L'Kash L'Bachers. Ravasi is not sure. So what does Ravasi say? Split. You pay 50%. 50% is a quarter. You pay a quarter. Quarter or karka or mois. You can choose what to pay. You pay only half. And that's what Ravasi said before. You can choose either karka or mois. That's what it is. Toisa says over here, the last lines of Toisa in this moment. Toisa says, why you split? You don't say why not? So, one way the Rishonim say is because there's no chazak over here. The lender came before. You can't say, means you want to take money from me, you have to bring money. You're not taking money from me. We split it before. So, that's what they want to say. What will Shmuel say? Shmuel holds that it's Ein Breira. So we consider it to be a division. So say by Shmuel, it's a Sovik Bedin. I don't know what, it's a Sovik Metzias. Here's the Breira Ein Breira. Did we divide, not divide? It's Sovik in reality. So then you don't say, so you say, but according to Abbas, it's Sovik what the halacha is. The whole halacha, you have to do cholk, you have to divide the land. That's what the Rechonim say to go on the question, do you say Amoitzu Chavel or not? That's the first Rab Shad of Rashi. The second Shad of Rashi is that Reviya B'Karka Reviya B'Mos means not that, like Shmuel. He pays 50%. The full 50%. He has to resplit it. But how does he pay it? He pays it. Half of what he pays with karka. Half of what he pays with mois. Why? He's not sure like Rav or Shmuel. Could be he's a Yorshim, inheritance, so you have to give the karka. Could be he's lekuchos, but lekuchos b'achrayus. It is a sale, but a sale that you have achrayus. So Yimanav has to pay him. But the question is, can he pay him land or money? So if it's Yorshim, land only. If it's lekuchos, he can choose to pay with money. He can pay or either land or money, whatever he wants. That's what I was saying. He can pay land or money. You pay Reviya B'Karka, you have to give the karka because you're redividing the inheritance. Reviya B'Mos, you can choose to pay with money because it's a lekuach. Lekuach can pay with money. So that's the second Rashi. Rashi doesn't like it so much because it's a little hard to understand. The Gemara Rashi says twice Rishon. So the question of the Gemara is Reviya B'Karka Reviya B'Mos means Reviya B'Karka or Reviya B'Mos, meaning you're paying only a quarter, but either karka or mos, or it means Reviya B'Karka very Reviya B'Mos, you pay a half. Half of what you're paying is with karka, half of what you're paying is with mos. Says the Gemara, So more they said, so that can't be Ravasi, because Ravasi already said it. We already have Bryce Ravasi said it, so why did he say it again? Going back to Meitav. What do you mean Gabe Meitav? The Gabe Nezikin. They could choose to pay either Karka or Mars. That's what Ravuna said. That's what I said before. Ravuna said it. So you're right. Ravuna said it, and Ravasi also said it. That's fine. Okay. Says the Gemara. Omar Rav Zero, Omar Ravuna. Now the Gemara takes a little break. We mentioned Ravuna, said nothing Ravuna that has nothing to do with Nezikin. A new thing. Or it says, Omar Zero, Omar Ravuna. But mitzvah achlish. You want to spend on a mitzvah, you spend a third. Still more my shlish. What's a third? What do you mean third? Says the Gemara that that's one base. You pay a third of what you own for a mitzvah. So if he has 3 mitzvahs, it has to be a shofar, an esrog, and a ner Chanukah. Let's see, let's miss the Rabbanon. So you have to pay a third of each one. You're done with your money. That can't be. So he's asked over here, we have a Gemara in Ksus that says that a daughter gets 10% of her father. So the Gemara says, if you give 10% for each daughter, you have 10 daughters, you have no money. So they want to know, 10% of what's left. The first one takes 10%. Second one takes 10% of what's left. The third one takes 10% of what's left. Says Toys, maybe that's a shot over here too. You take a third of what's left. Says Toys, still it's too much. That means the guy's not going to left with, will be left with almost anything. Says the Gemara, Elo mavzeiru behidur mitzvah shlish b'mitzvah. You have to add a third on the mitzvah. Rashi explains. Look at Rashi inside. Rashi says, behidur mitzvah shlish mitzvah shimoitze beit sifeteri. So by 2 sifeteri. Look, knois. Echad ha'adu mechaveru. One is more mehudor. Yoisif shlish adomi v'ikar sa'ador. Add third to by the other. The chayri already, and why? What's the mocker? The mocker is from the pasuk. Tanya is a kelim man very stole for the mitzvahs. Aselacha sevater noy, lulav noy, tolis noy, tzitzis noy. To make beautiful mitzvahs. It's nice that already the chayri point out. Why is Rashi saying tolis noy? Talis is the beged. The beged is not a mitzvah. The mitzvah is when you have 4 conflicts, you put tzitzis. So Ramoshe Feinstein, the Sefer writes, talk about the talis they use in shul. The talis you use only for davening, not the talis you wear. That's a mitzvah. It's already actual mitzvah. But in any case, what is Rashi saying? Rashi says, if you have 2 mitzvahs, you pay more, another third to have more muhudr. So the Chayim asks Rashi, saying, imagine you go to the lulav place, you buy an esrog, you have another esrog, which is, the first esrog costs $100. The other esrog costs $130, so you pay $130. Next extra costs $150, so you pay $150. Next extra costs $250, $200. And the safe. So the Chayim say Barashi, no, he means to keep saying when you have 2 esrogim, which are the first 2, you have to add a third. Torah says a little different. Torah says the size. You know, the minimum estrog is the egos. So you should try to have a third bigger than the minimum size. That's a shlish. It says in Gemara, shlish milagav, shlish milabar. Is it a third, milagav, which means, let's say it costs you $90, so you have to add another 30. Or shlish milabar, which means you take 50% of what you have and added it. So $45, added $90, that will be a third. So more take, we're not sure. So Rashi learns, what does it mean? Until a third, you have to pay for it. It's your money. Only Shabbos says, Yom Tovim, it says, the Kosh Baruch Hu pays for it. More than a third, the Kosh Baruch Hu will pay. Sorry, that's the right. More than a third, Kosh Baruch Hu pays. If you pay more, it's coming from Hashem. The Rashi learns that more than a third, you get schar b'olam hazeh. Every mitzvah is schar b'olam haba, but here you get a schar b'olam hazeh. Just to mention what we spoke about in the Shor Machshava and Daf, is why Daf Kashlish. So the Toras Chaim says over here, we know the Gemara says when you have a kli, the goydish to fill up above the kli, how much can you fill up? Another third. So you see, adding on the actual vessel is a third. The Maharal says that the Gemara in Sotah tells us that Torah are, ner mitzvah Torah are. The Torahs are. The mitzvah is like a ner. What's the definition of a candle? A candle, there's light, but you need to have the physical elements to keep the light going. What is the physical elements you need for a candle? You need the oil, the fuel. You need the wick to connect the fuel to the light. So the light is a third of the whole mitzvah. That's why you have to add, to make it beauty, you add a third. Because the beauty belongs to the light part, to the kedusha part. That's why you add a third, says the Maharal. That's the part of the mitzvah, which is the light. Kizuk the Mishnah. Kol shechavti b'shvirosu, whenever I'm responsible to guard, hichsharti is niskoi. So Rashi says two explanations. Either I have to, I'm the one who is responsible for the nezek, because I made the nezek happen, the fact that I didn't guard it. Or hichsharti niskoi means I have to be machshir the nezek, I have to fix it afterwards. Now, I want to point out, if you remember, we mentioned before, earlier in the Masechta, the Chakira, why you're chayav on moment and mazik. Are you chayav because it's your moment, or because you didn't guard it? I want to say that depends on these two pshatim and Rashi. Either ichshad niskoy, because I didn't guard it, I'm responsible, or no, if I didn't guard it, so now I become responsible after I didn't guard it. Now, as we mentioned before, let's say a little bit more. Maybe just to mention one thing, Maharatz Chayes already pointed out. This Mishnah is a very strange lashon. So weird. It's not a normal lashon. It says that's a Tani Yerushalmi. These Mishnah is Tani Yerushalmi, and that's what's written very weird, in a very weird way, not the normal way the Mishnah is written. So it says the Mishnah, whatever I'm responsible to guard Shadi Niskar, I need to take care of the nest. If I, now here Rashi says, here's for sure prepared. If I prepared some of the nezek, so I'm responsible to pay the nezek as if I did the whole thing. Even though I just did a part of it, after I did the whole thing, the Gemara is going to explain what are we talking about. And now the Mishnah goes on to say things that I have to pay for. Meaning if it's not Hegdish, number one. Meaning it has to be a Jew, not a Goy. Not Hefker. It has to be miyuchat to somebody. Everywhere, except the reshus that belongs to the mazik. Meaning if Shimon put his animal into Reuven's property, Reuven's ox, gored Shimon's ox, what are you doing over here? Reshus needs a mazik, reshus belongs to both, and wasn't explain that. Okay, when the mazik was mazik, he has to pay l'shalem tashlumi nezik metavar. It has to be paid b'meitav, the best field. The Gemara says earlier, that's what Rashi points out. This is referring to the Karen. That's what Karen is referring to. Now the mention is a very strange lashon. Very strange lashon. But the Ramami Pano asks a question. He says, you want to say a strange lashon, okay, but the Tani is using a lashon that seems like he's speaking about himself. Called shechavti b'shros, whatever I'm responsible. So then ichsharti. Not nice to speak about yourself. So the Ramami Pano, it's not the Tana talking, it's a Kodesh Baruch Hu talking. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, kol shechavti minis ko ichsharti. Kol shechavti b'shros. Kodesh Baruch Hu is responsible to guard every single Jew. If a Jew doesn't have Eiros, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him Eitzah. So Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, it's a little bit my responsibility that this guy did something wrong. Because I give him Eitzah. That's what the Gemara brings, that Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Asher hari oisi. I did it bad, because I gave him Eitzah. So that's the Mishnah. I gave him the Eitzah. Kodesh Baruch Hu says a little bit my responsibility. So the Gemara. If you listen to Shur Machshava, we brought another pshat that's brought down on the Arizal. Arizal has a small sefer on Shas, and he brings one piece over here. It says, whatever I'm responsible to guard, I'm responsible to pay. Keita. We're going to use an example. You gave a cheresh shot, they're not incompetent people, right? Deaf mute, someone who's not saying, and someone who's cut on a katan. You gave him a shore and a bar, an axe and a pit. Feiziku, chayav l'shar, have to pay. You're responsible. Mashein kabesh, fire is different. Even if you gave it to the cheresh of the katan, you're okay. So what am I asking? What's the case? Talk about the shore is tied up and the bar is covered. So we're talking about coal, a piece of coal. Meaning you don't have fire, it's a covered fire. Why are you responsible for the shore and the bar and not for the ish? Ella, the shore mutu bar migula. Talk about shore which is not tied up, and you have a pit which is open. The kavos gabei ish. So by fire, we're talking about actual fire. Mashenkin beish the potter. You want to tell me ish the potter? Only if you give the cheresh to the katan coal and he made the fire go up. Our shalev is chayav to give fire chayav. But time with the bor is equal. It's as if he did mamash the hazard. So why you differentiate between shor, bor, and ish? Says the Gemara, L'oilam b'shor kosher ubor mechusim. The Gemara, you're right. Talk about that the shor is tied up and the bor is covered. V'tikavosa gabi ish, and by fire kachelis. Hi, the kalma is my shnocha. So what's the difference? Why would you give the cheresh to the katan on the shor and bor? You chayav ish not. Shor daikil in tukin. Shor is normal for it to get out of its rope. Ubor daikil in turi. And the bor is normal for the cover to fall off. But a coal, if you leave it, if you don't touch it, the fire will be extinguished. So what does this mean? I understand this. So Rashi explains, the way Rashi says, is that naturally a shor, the rope around the shor will be loosened. By a bar, naturally, the cover will fall off. By gachelis, naturally, it will be okay. Meaning nothing to do with cheresh of the katan. And this is really the question over here in Rashi. Because, and that's really, it says, what do you want to tell me? A regular shore that you tie up, is going to fall off? No. Only if you didn't tie it well. If you tied it well, so did he tie it well or didn't tie it well? You're talking about he tied it well. So why are you saying it's going to fall off? In other words, what he's asking is, why dafka the cheresh to the katan do you think it's going to fall off? Does it usually fall off or not? So the Ramban explains in Rashi tries like this. Usually, a regular guy, when you tie up a shore, you tie him up. You have to come and check it out after a little bit. Tie him up, you put him out there for 2-3 hours, to come back. Normally, you go and check it back. Here he gave it to cheresh to the katan. The way some of the Achronim explain, they say, and to add to the Ramban, cheresh to the katan does have some das, even according to Rish Lakish, according to Rashi, to guard. So he says, okay, you can guard him. Yeah, but you have to come back after 3 hours to check it out. They didn't check it out. So that's what B'shor or Bor is chayav. Like Gecheles, you have to come check it out. So normally it gets loosened. It gets a little bit light. But then you have to check it out. That's what Rashi learns. Tosfos learns no. Tosfos learns, you know what's the issue? That the cheresh to the katan, because they're, like a little kid. He's with the shor, he's playing with him. He's going to loosen up the knot. He's going to make the cover of the bor a little light. That's the reason it's a problem. Cheresh to the katan, will do it. He's not going to do the gecheles. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan said, even if you give him a live fire, you're still potter. How could Rabbi Yochanan have to tell him? We're talking about a shore which is untied and a bor was revealed. Why? By shore and bor you are chayav and by shalev is you potter. What's the difference? Tzavta the cheresh means, Rashi says two explanations. Either tzavta the way we read it, rewrote it here. Lashon tzvas, holding on to it. Or tzavta with a vav, lashon together, to be betzavta. The cheresh being together with the fire, he caused the fire to do fire. So let's learn first of all like Tosfos learns. Tosfos pshat is, Rabbi Yochanan says, the cheresh knows how to guard. He knows how to guard, but not that well. So if you give him a shore and you give him a bor, right? So then, right? So we assume he knows guard a little bit. So that's why he gave it to cheresh to the katan. He guards a little bit, but it's not enough. So at the end of the day, the person who gave it to cheresh to the katan is chayav in it. But by eish, the cheresh to the katan knows how to guard. And therefore, what's the reason it lit the fire? It's after the cheresh. It's the cheresh responsibility. It's not responsibility of the owner because the cheresh does know how to guard ish. That's what Rashi learns. Meaning, according to Tosfos, Rish Lakish says the cheresh of the katan ruins it. Not only doesn't guard, he ruins it. It doesn't ruin gecheles. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he guards it. He guards the fire, he doesn't guard the other two. Rashi learns differently. Let's take what we said before. Rashi learns that Rish Lakish holds he guards. but his guarding is not enough for the shor bar, it's good enough for kachelis. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the chesher koton maybe guards a little bit, not enough. So therefore, for shor mutter and bor that's not shmira, and the owner is responsible. By eish, the cheresh is responsible. You know why? Not because he can guard it, like we said by Tesis. Rashi says, let Nick come on, because ishay mishum chitzov, which means eish means that he did it. When the cheresh is guarding the fire and something burns in the fire, it's as if the cheresh took I didn't put it into the fire. I'm not responsible for that. Even though I gave the fire to the cheresh and the koton, but it didn't go on its own. It's as if the cheresh did it. That's what the cheresh is responsible. So the Gemara concludes and says, different ways to say it. But if you give a cheresh and a koton a shor and a bar, you're chayav. You give him a eish, you're patur. Different ways to understand what's exactly the case. We say Gomer, stop over here. Be'ez Hashem, continue from here tomorrow.